Robert Stord, who is also known as the Birdman of Alcatraz, had always been a legendary figure in the history of crime. Even though he withheld 2 violent killing records and 1 stabbing attempt, he had always seemed to carry a kind soul within. Stord was born with a complicated family background. He had 2 stepsisters and 1 brother. His mother, Elizabeth, was a strenuous and determined woman. She had suffered divorce twice in her life and was often addressed as the widow, even though none of her husbands were dead at that time. The early life of young Robert Stord was sunny. He enjoyed his childhood when everyone else in his family refused to. His sisters both suffered mental and emotional issues. His birth father, Benjamin Frank Stord, was a generous man when he and Elizabeth first got married. But things don't always stay that way. Frank later became an abusive, violent alcoholic who tried to file for divorce but was rejected by Elizabeth. So later he moved out of his family mansion and went to live with another woman named Catherine. Stord's teenage life was a total waste, as many would call. He was a troublesome young adult when he dropped school at the age of 13 and left home at the age of only 19 with a woman named Kate and settled with her until his first crime. The first man Robert Stord killed was Kate's friend Demer, who abused Kate. Kate went back to Stord to seek support and revenge. She told Stord to kill Demer for her. Unfortunately, Stord did so. This mistake gave him a 12-year conviction that took away thousands of wasted days and nights. While he was in jail, he committed 2 more stabbing attempts. 1 succeeded and 1 failed. From that point on, he had converted his 12-year conviction into a 54-year death sentence. That is another 10,000 days of wasted time and failure. Even though Stord almost spent his entire lifetime in prison, he did not allow his free time to flee through his fingers. Meanwhile, he studied art, philosophy, mathematics, engineering, and physics. One day, when Stord was out alone in the yard, he found a felon nest of 2 baby sparrows. He kept them in his cell and fed them his own prison food. He watched them grow and observed their behaviors. Soon he began figuring out methods of how to keep the little creatures alive. Robert Stord later became an expert on birds and ended up publishing 2 books about how to cure bird diseases. On November 21st, 1963, Robert Stord died of a heart attack at the age of 73 in prison. He was imprisoned first at the age of 19, and by the time he died, he already served 54 years in prison. I like this book because I find the story of Robert Stord very interesting. Many would have thought that he was a violent criminal, but after reading this book, I'm beginning to think that maybe he had an explanation for his actions. But whatever it is, he has cost him a lifetime of fatal tragedy. He is a warm-hearted man. At least, he tried to become one. If his family background were not as awful, he would have developed into a better being. It would not have been his fault that he had committed those crimes. He killed Demer because he felt some were responsible for the protection of Kate. His mental disability has gotten in his way of becoming a better man. Rage and violence had led him to become a serial killer. This book taught us that this world can be so complicated and perplexing sometimes. Good intentions may not always lead to good results, and your life should always be in your own hands. For instance, Stord's original motivation of fulfilling his responsibility of protecting Kate was good, but he chose the incorrect path of judgment, which led him to commit his first crime. This book involved many detailed descriptions about what life in prison is like.
I think that it's very interesting because there aren't many chances for you to learn about the downsides of the society in which we live in. I think it's very important that we understand what the conditions are like in prisons and that we should not make mistakes that we may someday regret.
I am able to connect to this book in many ways because during the Operation Starship trip in October, we visited one of the prisons that Robert Stord stayed in, which is Alcatraz. The moment I stepped into Alcatraz, I could feel chills running down my back.
Through bars and wires we walked, and saw where this legendary man lived his remaining years. The story of Robert Storr and the history of Alcatraz really fascinates me in every way. Besides the curiosity of learning about how the prisoners lived, one important thing I have learned through reading this book is that your destiny is in your own hands. This book influenced me in many ways. First of all, I have never read anything so realistic and historically accurate about someone so mysterious and legendary. Every bit of information in this book is taken either from written sources or oral evidences. All the sources are real, and that at some point while I was reading, I felt like I was actually present when Storr murdered a prison guard with his 5-inch blade in front of 200 other prisoners. This book was the first to catch my eye and to urge me to follow through. Another reason that this book influenced my life is that now after reading about life in prison, how simple it would be to just make one little mistake that would change your life and destroy it forever.
Thank you for watching and have a nice day.